listening to the Maddox Podcast, hosted by the Maddox Real Estate Team, Jason Maddox, Jamie Abitia, and Katrina Pryor, presented by Painless Podcast. To learn more about our services, check out our website at maddoxrealestate.com.
Welcome back. After a brief hiatus, the Maddox Podcast is back with more real estate and wine talk, focusing on our communities and the usual shenanigans you are accustomed to from our team. Today, we get you up to date on what our plans are for the podcast moving forward, introducing you to our new agents, and getting you up to date on the latest market trends, such as if people really are moving out of California, the shift to a buyer's market, and how to best utilize your accessory dwelling unit. Hey everybody, we're back and we're doing our final episode for this season, and we're excited about next season because we've got a couple wineries on the agenda for doing a podcast. We're going to do it up there, and we've got Sugar Tooth, I think we're doing right, from Hercules. We're going to have them on, and we'd like to introduce our new agents, Amy Davis and Lisa Chilton.
Yay!
So, Amy and Lisa, kind of tell us a little bit about you guys, and your history and real estate, and what led you into real estate and all that good stuff.
Well, I'm a local native, born locally, raised. Been in real estate 20 years, have a background in property management, in training, and...
That's awesome. I mean, you've been in the community forever because
yes.
Back when, was it Lucky's or Albertsons? Was it back?
Lucky's Store 97.
Yeah, when Trader Joe's used to be the Lucky over there.
Yeah, when there used to be a Rexall.
Wait, do you remember the Sandpiper? That was my place as a kid. It's right by Lucky's. There was a place called the Sandpiper. I would steal Duran Duran photos from the magazines. I would try to sneak whatever candy I could fit in my pocket, and I'll never forget the little Sandpiper bird. Anyway, I digress.
Wow.
Sorry, back to real estate.
That's awesome. Well, that's great. And Lisa, obviously you've been here your whole life.
Yes. Mom started real estate over 20 years ago.
Oh, if we didn't say that, she is my daughter.
Yeah. So, she's always encouraged me to go into business with her and to do real estate with her. One of my first jobs was a receptionist at a Prudential office with over 90 agents.
Wow.
So I saw some good and I saw some bad, and, ultimately it wasn't something I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But, at this point in my life, my mom's my best friend and I want to work with her every day.
Oh, that's so funny. And it's a fun business, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's fun with us.
Yeah.
It's fun with us.
Exactly.
HR, yeah, we got to get HR involved all the time because we're always saying inappropriate things.
I'm the new HR director.
She's the new HR director. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And my brother, who's behind the camera right now, you guys went to school together and grew up together. And,
yes.
Yeah.
Since about second grade, we were really close. We took him to Vegas with us on a trip.
Awesome.
He traveled with us.
He traveled with us. We used to go to Marine World all the time, and he was actually my boyfriend for 4 years, but I never told him. So don't tell him.
I love it. Okay, so let's kind of get started here with it. We've got a bottle of Alpha Omega, and Rob just realized this was not part of his shipment. This was a gift, and it's a really expensive bottle of wine.
It's okay.
So let's talk about the wine a little bit.
This is a 2019 Oak Knoll, Napa Valley, 100% Cabernet. I pulled the tasting notes on it. So it says fresh and vibrant red and black cherries, cedar, molasses, leather, and venison. So just imagine all of that.
I get that.
Blended up in a milkshake, and you're just drinking it. On the palate, focused red fruits, sarsaparilla, savory dry herbs, and a seamless flow.
It's good, right?
Oh,
I took one sip and I was like, that's way better than anything we tasted.
It's really good.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was wrong. It's not 100% Cab. It's 94% Cab, 5% Malbec, and 1% Cab Franc. The fermentation process, you guys are all interested in this, right?
Absolutely.
Process, right? Yeah. 50% barrel fermented in 60% new and 40% one-year-old French oak barrels, and 50% stainless steel tank fermented. The aging is 20 months in French oak, 30% new, 50% one-year-old, 20% two-year-old barrels.
Well, that explains why it's so amazing.
This is why it's incredible.
Well, I'm tasting 15% alcohol.
This is really good. It's got some nice labels.
And maybe some leather.
Yeah. Well, cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
To real estate, to our final episode, and to our future episodes. Yum, yum.
I like that.
Awesome.
It's bad luck if you don't.
I know. Right.
Totally.
So I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about what the market's done in the last couple of months. We had this crazy market up until, what do you think, maybe August, September? And things just started slowing down. Like it went from a seller's, not necessarily a seller's market to a buyer's market, but it just kind of slowed down, right? And opened up more opportunity for buyers.
And it was a very short slowdown, if you think about it.
It was a short slowdown, right. So we went, I had a property in Knoll. I thought, hands down, I'm going to get tons of offers. This is going to be an easy sell. You guys did the open house for it. Didn't get any offers. And it was really strange and trying to figure out what's going on. Finally got an offer. We're in contract now, but we didn't get 10 offers. That the market was sort of speaking right at the time. Jamie and Katrina put on a property and they started getting, well, let's first talk about your Kenny property. So you had this amazing property in San Pablo, Terre Hills area. And it was just really unique and cool and had let's talk about it a little bit and like your offer situation, how you felt about activity and things like that.
Well, the house was really kind of a unique property. It had an in-law unit in the garage and it had, in the garage, the built-in garage. And then the sellers built a workshop in the back. So it wasn't the type of property that was going to appeal to absolutely everyone, but everybody came through, just absolutely loved it. It was gorgeous.
Right. It was done really well.
Yeah, I remember the minute I walked in, I was like, I love this.
Yes.
They're inspiring me.
It was beautiful.
Yeah.
And so we got not as much interest as I expected, and I think that's just because
that timing, right?
Yes,
right.
It was.
Yeah.
That week there was 15 other properties that came on in Terre Hills that week.
Yeah. If we would have put it on a month before, it could have been a whole nother story.
Oh, yeah.
But it also factoring in was that temporary slowdown.
Right.
But, a lot of good interest. Everybody who came through absolutely loved it. And we ended up getting 2 solid offers on it. Which I was surprised, like you. I thought we were going to get, a bunch of offers.
I think if we would have put it on a month before, we would have gotten more offers.
What do you think, like 5, 6, 7 offers?
Oh, yeah. Because it wasn't going to be for every family. It was a unique situation, but it was done so well. And we were lucky enough to get the right family in there who had those needs and went over asking.
Yeah, that's awesome. You got a cash offer, right?
Yes, cash.
Nice.
There's a lot of cash in the market right now.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about that. What are you seeing, Rob? Rob is one of our preferred lenders, and he has a lot of knowledge about what goes on in the market. So...
Well, I'm just seeing cash offers, especially on high price points. Like, I think there's just people out there that have a lot of cash and see value in the real estate market still. And I talk about this every time we talk about the market. My other friends, you see me talking with Valerie all the time, drinking beer, and I kind of say the same thing. I'm like a broken record, right? But it's California is so far behind on housing starts that regardless of where interest rates are or inventory on the market, there's this huge demand. Because the housing starts to demographic or population of people that are ready to buy homes, because they can see we've got this many people that are in this age group, and generally this age group goes into the first time home buyers. It's like 6-7 to 1. So houses that become available to people that want to buy. So take away the stimulating factors of the economy of super low interest rates, people being able to work from home, high wages here in the Bay Area. Take all that away, and you still have huge supply and demand issues going on, right? And so, what I see happening in the market is a little bit of ebb and flow. And we saw kind of an extreme situation happening, I would say March through August, where prices were kind of going way, way, way up. But anytime something happens like that, a few things come into play. One is buyers get fatigued. It's like a marathon and everybody's sprinting like it's a 100-meter sprint, right? And people don't want to do that forever. And at a certain point, people go, I'm just going to chill. You get burnt out if you go make 9 offers and you're competing against 26 other people. And sometimes that was the case. I mean, I heard stories in Oakland of one house that had 41 offers on it. Like, what the hell, right? 41 offers. And then so people kind of pull back a little bit. At the same time, rates started to go up. And that affects, buyers' ability. I think one of the reasons that spurred on buyers to go and rush to put offers on homes is, one, there was a lot of flexibility as to where you could live. So all of a sudden, you didn't have to commute to San Francisco. You could, live at home. Well, if I can live at home, that means I don't have to buy in a high metropolitan price point. We talked about urban sprawl last time we were on here. So how about if I go to Concord, where prices are around $600,000? That seems a lot more affordable, and I can work out of my living room in my pajamas. Fantastic. Oh, and rates are 2.5%, so my payment is way lower than it would be in a normal market. When people start to see how low their payments are with super low interest rates, they kind of go, I need to take advantage of this and buy, right? Yeah. But it's amazing. You push rates up 1%, which is almost the difference we've seen over the last 6 months, an increase of almost 1%. You push rates up 1%, and it decreases buying power by significantly. I mean, if you're looking at a $600,000 home, you could drop that price 10%, and with a 1% increase in interest rate, you have a higher payment at the lower priced home with the higher interest rate than you would at the higher priced home with the lower interest rate. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So this low cost of money spurs people on to buy. But again, people get burnt out because there's not a plethora of inventory, because all factors aside, we have a shortage of housing starts in California. And this is primarily because the government in California has not allowed for new builds very easily. There's a lot of environmental protections. There's a lot of rules and regulations to go around. If you want to go buy a lot, in Concord, Knoll, Hercules, Walnut Creek, etc., and build your own home, you would spend more money than it would cost to just go buy an existing home. Right. You know what I mean? So who are the people that can do it? Sino Homes, David Don. People who have tens and millions of dollars and know how to do this, and they can cut down costs and build 300 homes at once and walk away with $500 million. That's who can do it, right? Not you and me. And it's really unfortunate. So there's some things that have been loosening up in that regards. We can now build a lot of ADUs on single-family homes with quite relative ease. And now recently a new law has allowed us to convert single-family homes and turn them into multi-units, full-on duplex, triplex, fourplexes. So that's my current outlook on the market, and I think it all stems from that core thing, which is there is a huge housing shortage in California. Right. Yeah.
For as many people that are leaving, there's probably more coming.
There's not an exodus out of California. Yeah. I mean, sure, a lot of people are leaving, people are retiring, but it's not there's not a mass exodus. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
You're hearing all the time people are like, "Oh, I'm out of here, I'm leaving," and it's everybody's leaving, but they're really not.
They're not.
Yeah, we actually. I spoke with an attorney recently with a client, and he's a landlord, and California does have strict tenant laws. And so he says, this is why everybody's leaving California. This is why I'm going to leave California. And a lot of people are going to Texas or going to Colorado, going to Nevada.
Idaho.
And exactly. And so he said, you will be surprised how many of those folks eventually will come back. He said, spend a summer in 100-degree temperature in Arizona. Spend a winter, if you're not used to it, back east. You will eventually come back. You're coming back. If you've been raised in California, you realize why people are willing to spend the amount that they are for housing and why they're willing to stay here. There's a reason. Mm-hmm. And so he made it very clear to my client that there's more people that are interested in buying.
And unfortunately, they have a harder time getting back into the market.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
as easy as it was.
Try to get sushi in a landlocked state. Yeah, screw that, right?
Right.
Yeah, so there's a lot of advantages to living in California, and the climate is definitely a huge one.
I never thought about that.
It's terrible. I tried it one time, and I was like, it's not the same. A lot of imitation crab. Yeah. Right? House Hacking with Rob. Welcome to another edition of House Hacking with Rob. Brought to you today by Alpha Omega.
Yes.
So,
and Trinchero.
Yeah, and
I just poured Trinchero.
Let's talk about Trinchero for a minute.
You need some Trinchero.
Okay. Tell us about this.
Cabernet. Well, I don't know much about this except the fact that I just joined this winery, and I really, really love this. And I'm not I wasn't a huge...
Can you tell us in your sexiest, smooth jazz voice? It's 11 o'clock at night.
Well,
yeah. Where is Rodney when we need him?
So we just joined this winery, and I'm not a huge cab fan. Katrina's a big cab fan. I love this cab.
It's really good.
And now I've just found out that I love this cab. So maybe I am a cab guy. I just never knew it.
You're a $150 bottle of cab.
You have expensive tasting cabs.
I have expensive tasting cabs.
Yeah.
But this Trinchero's it's a beautiful winery. We're gonna do a podcast up there in our next season. Yeah, hopefully they get back to us. Which I talked to her. She said we should be able to do it. But it's a beautiful winery, and I enjoy the cabs. I'm not a fan of all the wines, but I love the cabs, and of course, always a blend. So
You couldn't have said that until after she committed to us.
I know. Right. What do you think of Trinchero? We were just there Sunday. What do you think of their wine?
I love it.
You do.
Yeah.
You're a cat. You love cabs.
Yeah, it was great.
So,
I really enjoyed it.
so this is called Mario's Cab. It's not a blend. It's Mario's Cabernet Sauvignon, and we're gonna bring this on for and we do sugar too because Joe's dad's name was Mario, and I think it would be a really cool wine to drink during that. But anyway, okay, so back to Rob.
House hacking with Rob.
House hacking with Rob. Okay.
Okay, so 2016, 5 years ago, when I was starting to look to buy a home, right? Finally been in loans long enough that I could average my income and say you could buy something. Thank God. Okay, so my friend Brad said, you need to buy something with an in-law unit. And I said, I do? He goes, yes, don't buy anything unless it has an in-law unit. I said, okay. So he started showing me some houses with in-law units or houses I could add in-law units to, et cetera. It really got me thinking. And I started looking around and I thought, nobody's really going after this in-law unit market. And so I would see houses that were selling in neighborhoods for not that much more than houses that didn't have, the ones that sold with in-law units, they weren't selling for a lot more than the ones that didn't. So the cost to build an in-law unit is more expensive than the value that you get. And this is still true today, even though that delta is smaller. But the income potential is massive. And so I thought, I'm helping people buy homes. People were buying, $500,000, $600,000 homes at the time with those interest rates they were having. 550 home was going to give them a $3,500 payment. It's lower today because lower interest rates. I thought, there's no way I want a $3,500 payment. No, I want to be able to have a life. I don't want a $3,500 payment. And so I started looking for single-family homes with ADUs, and I was focusing on Concord because it was an affordable area to live. And
who was your agent, by the way?
I didn't have an agent. You were my agent. But I started. Okay, so I started out without an agent, just looking and putting the word out, and that got a little complicated because there were a lot of agents. And when it came down to it, I trusted Jason. He's worked in the Concord market a lot. I knew he would represent my interests as well. And
we found the greatest house.
We did.
I love your house.
And so I started working with Jason. It was a really good experience. But anyway, so I had sent a letter to every homeowner in Concord that had an in-law unit. At the time, there were 52 homeowners in Concord that said I wanted to buy your house. Well, no responses to the letter.
Can I interrupt you right there? Where did you go on public records to? How do they do that? Do they say residential, single-family residential with?
So I've actually got to give a little bit of credit to my friend Taylor. So at the time, when I put the word out, people started to search for homes for me. Yeah. And my friend Taylor, who at the time was working for the Nancy Bennett team, who's really big in Concord, said, let's go to the title company and have them pull everything that has single, ADUs, and we'll send it to them. And they were able to do that for us. And I don't know if they contacted the city, but anyways, they sent out 52 letters. Mm-hmm. And wow, we got no responses back. But it was a very cool tactic, and I was really impressed by that. But I still had to look. So every time you look on the market, there might be one home for sale with an ADU, maybe, right? And sometimes they would go for an outrageous amount of money, or they would be overpriced because sellers really highly value this because they see the value in it. Mm-hmm. You don't really see the value in an ADU until you don't have an ADU, honestly. Right? And so I had tried to make an offer on a home on Lolita Drive, which is in Monty Gardens, and they wanted $650,000 for this house, way overpriced. But it was hard to comp it because there weren't other homes. They had a huge in-law unit. It was 1,000 square foot in-law unit.
Wow.
Duplex. So I was going to live in the in-law unit. It was gorgeous. Had a big old island peninsula kitchen. It was amazing. Yeah. And I was going to rent out the front house, which was a dump, And I was like, I'm all good with this, right? Well, they wouldn't accept my offer. It had been sitting on the market for 45 days, and I was coming in low. I kept going at it, stabbing at these different price points. How about this? They wouldn't even counter me. I'm going to re-offer this price, and I just could not get them to budge. Eventually, they sold for what they wanted. So, anyways, around the corner on Granada Drive, Granada runs down Lolita Village, these streets run across. This house had fallen out of contract. And so Jason and I went to go look at it. And when we were there, the owner came out. His name was Pete. and he was probably like in his 70s. He was retiring. He wanted to go to Santa Cruz, owned his house free and clear. Excuse me. And so I said, Pete, what's going on? He goes, well, I was in contract to sell this house, and the appraisal didn't come through. It was an FHA loan, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. Well, I was using a conventional loan, and I said, well, Pete, I'm a lender. I have a panel of good appraisers that I use locally, and I can tell you that I think this house will appraise, and you won't have a problem if you take my offer. And I want to buy it.
Nice.
I'm looking for, and I just told my story, you know. I walked through it, and it was done. Popcorn ceilings, had linoleum on the floor in the second bedroom.
I love
Because
Best
Love
house
all
ever.
the
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
30
I love
years
the
prior, when his son was a child, his son had allergies, and so they couldn't have carpet in his bedroom. So they had Star Wars shower curtains as the window curtains, which were kind of dope,
So we kept those.
and linoleum on the floor. And
I remember that. The Knoll.
it was atrocious. It had like turquoise tiles in the bathroom. It was super dark. There was no recessed lighting. It was very, people give a lot of shit to popcorn ceilings, but they are very good acoustically because sound dies. You clap and it just doesn't go anywhere, right? But anyways, we eventually got rid of all that stuff. So I made my offer, $555. He was asking $554. I $555, $5,000 back because I wanted a little closing cost assistance. He got 5 offers at that time. One was all cash. I wasn't the highest offer, so he countered me, right? And this counter said, I like everything on your offer, but I want you to take all my furniture. I don't want to move anything out of the house. And we're good to go. I said, done.
Yeah.
Amazing,
From
right?
the man with Star Wars.
So this guy ignores
shower
cash
curtains.
offers, other offers that are above mine, and says, I'm going to take yours, but take all my stuff. It's like, really? So I moved into a fully furnished house, which is great, because I moved out of a 2-bedroom apartment with, like, hardly any furniture in it.
Right.
Amazing, right? And I didn't care that the furniture was, like, from the 80s. It was fine. It was functional. It worked for me. I was a bachelor.
That's the key word.
I got married 6 months later, and then it didn't work.
And then it all went out the door.
So I started to rent out the in-law unit. There was an in-law unit above the garage, and it was like this apartment that he had built in 1985. So he got a divorce from his wife, and at the time, he didn't have enough money if they split their assets to go and buy something on his own. So building this in-law unit was his way of, staying at home. So he stayed in the in-law unit. The wife got remarried, and so his ex-wife and new husband and child lived downstairs, and he lived upstairs.
That's crazy.
Feels very domestic.
That's crazy.
I would hate that situation.
Yeah.
He totally rocked it, right?
Yeah.
So, anyways, yeah, totally. So I started renting this thing out for like $1,600 a month, and I don't know. A year later, it was vacant. It was vacant for a week. I rented it out again for $1,500. Rented out for 2 years like that. It's long term, just paying off a chunk of my mortgage. Refinanced. My payment went down. It was paying over 50% of my mortgage at the time.
That's
Nice. Yeah.
And then when the last person moved out, it was June of 2020. And I said, you know what? I think it's time to remodel this thing. It was ugly. It didn't have an oven in it. It had an electric coil stove. It had a lot of funky things in it. It just, the whole layout was weird. No AC. It's super hot in Concord, and it's upstairs. I was like, this has to change. So my neighbor, Dom, shout out to Dom, great contractor, did a full remodel on this thing. We took the bedroom, which had this weird opening, turned it into a full actual 1-bedroom with a pocket door, redid the bathroom, put in a washer and dryer, put in an island, did this beautiful kitchen, full oven. I mean, put in a mini split AC
It's
system.
super nice.
It's gorgeous, retextured, painted, recessed lightings. I mean, it's like to the nines, right? I spent about $50,000-$60,000 on it. And I thought, I've kind of overspent for this thing, right? Now I can rent it out for maybe $2,000 a month, or if I'm lucky, get a travel nurse in there for $2,400. So I was trying for 2 months to get a travel nurse in there, and the stars were not aligning. I just could not get a travel nurse in there. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to throw it on Airbnb. It was already furnished. I'm just going to see how it performs on Airbnb. Immediately, within 2 days, it's booked out for 3 months. I was like, wow.
Because that's a long-term Airbnb.
No, just multiple people booked it. One guy booked for a little over a month, so he was long-term. But
Okay.
So was he traveling? What was his story? Do you know?
yeah, he moved here from Virginia to take a job with Budweiser. He needed a place to live away from a place to rent. So anyways, fast forward 6 months, I'm making $3,000 to $4,000 a month consistently on this ADU Airbnb. It's constantly booked out. I just had somebody book for 5 days. No.
I'll be selling my home.
10 days. Yeah.
Might buy that duplex.
10 days in November, right? He just booked for 10 days in November. I just got the notification today. $1,300 is what I'm getting it for 10 days. So, anyways, it's now completely covering my mortgage payment, and I live in the house. I live there to cover my mortgage payment.
That's awesome.
So, with the new laws, I'm going to build another detached ADU in the backyard. ADU stands for additional dwelling unit. It's a 12,000 square foot lot, which is pretty large, but this used to be officers' housing because it was next to a naval base, so the officers had these big lots, ranch houses, big lots. So I'm going to put a fence down the middle of my backyard, put a detached studio, 1 bedroom, whatnot, ADU in the back, private walkway back, etc. Airbnb, same thing. I think I'll probably get around $3,000 a month for it. And then I'll rent out my main house. When I finish all of that, that home is going to cash flow by $6,500 per month.
Crazy.
And I put down $25,000 when I bought it.
Yeah.
Because my friend Brad said, don't buy a house unless it has an ADU on it.
Thank you, Brad.
Thank you, Brad.
Yeah.
Brad.
So the idea of house hacking, okay, you can do this in many forms.
Right, exactly. So how does somebody who's listening be able
So how do you do this? Okay,
or with the home, or with the home that they're purchasing.
Right.
Convert it.
To add it or convert it. Like, let's say some folks with a single family, perhaps, maybe, I mean, not single family, a one story, but maybe even a two story. I've seen where additions are over the garage with an exterior stairwell going up.
That's how mine is.
Okay.
Over the garage is really a great way to
Is
do
it an attached garage?
Yes.
Sorry, HR.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's an attached garage. That's a great way to do it. You can also do a Fannie Mae home style renovation loan, which my company offers, and add one. And there's kind of a trick to it. So if you have the ADU that has interior access, it can be counted in the GLA, which stands for gross living area of the home. That means that the square footage will be counted towards the value in an appraisal when compared to other homes that have sold recently. If there's no interior access, it cannot be counted in the GLA. So what an appraiser has to do is strictly rely on other homes that have sold with in-law units. And a lot of appraisers, unfortunately, are a little bit lazy when it comes to this because in order to get good data on this, they have to go back about 8 years. And they can do this. It just takes them about an hour or so. Pull 8 years of homes that have sold with ADUs and 8 years of homes that have sold without ADUs in the same area, zip code, city, whatever it is, right? And then compare all the 3 2s against all the 3 3s, whatever it is, and go, okay, on average, these homes are selling for, whatever it is, 7% higher if they have an ADU on it, or $80,000 more than ADU, right? And it's called a regression report. So we can see a trend, and we can see how much more people are getting when they sell a home with an ADU. That's how you do this. You don't look back and go, I found one comp a year ago that has an ADU. That's not enough data. That's that's way too micro. So anyways, that will give you the data. So when I had my home appraised for my refinance, I wanted to get rid of mortgage insurance and then take a HELOC. So I needed a good appraisal. So I reached out to my friend Anthony Young, who's just a genius when it comes to appraisals. He owns his own appraisal company. He speaks all over the country on this kind of stuff. And I offered to pay him. He did this for free. It's really nice. He put together all these regression reports, but one of them was for ADUs. And I got this appraiser that came from Stockton, and I was like, are you sure you know the area? He's like, no, I do a lot in Concord. I was like, right. I want you to use this regression report for adjusting for my ADU. He goes, oh, this is amazing. And he did. And my home value came in at $690, and this was 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
My home was not worth $690. But that's what the appraisal does.
Say something.
No, for sure.
That's awesome.
But that's how you have to go about it. So house hacking, how can you do it? I'm sorry, I get off track here.
No,
so here's what, as somebody who's actually quite interested, here's what I would want to know is, what does the cost look like to add something like that? Whether it's a detached
I've been looking into
ADU or an addition to an existing.
Okay, so I've been looking into this. So I bought another house in Concord where I'm doing this, and I'll tell you exactly what I'm spending on it. So it had a basement that was dug out. So, you could say to dig out the basement, you probably got to spend $20,000 to do everything that's done down there. It's just rough, all that.
Legal height or no?
It has to be dug out another foot.
Okay.
And then it will be. So I got that permitted. That's going to cost me about $70,000 to finish that out.
The basement.
The basement.
What's the square footage?
Of that, it's going to be 500 square feet. But there's going to be a bonus area. You can have unpermitted bonus area. It's not counted towards the gross living area on permits.
Right.
And it's going to be like a living area, like a bedroom, etc., whatever they want to use it for. So it's going to be closer to the footprint of the house, which is 860 square feet.
Okay.
That's awesome.
That is.
For $70,000.
We could do that with some of these places around here, the old houses that have basements.
You can. I'm doing a detached ADU in the back that's pre-manufactured through my friend John Knoll. And that's going to be $200,000, including the utility hookups, which is amazing because the utility hookups alone can cost you a fortune.
Right.
Yes.
And so that's gonna be bigger than the main house. And I rent the main house for $2,600 a month. So I think I'm gonna get $2,750. I might Airbnb that thing, but when this is all done, I think that property is gonna cash flow by around $4,000 a month, maybe more if I do Airbnb on some of those units, which is my plan. But you can build a studio in-law unit for around $125,000, detached or attached.
And that's
a reasonable budget for that. And I'm looking into a different setup where you could build a tiny home. Maybe it's 380, 400 square feet. And you can buy these kits at Home Depot for $20,000. Now that doesn't include labor, of course.
For tiny homes?
Tiny homes.
You
have to get the plans drawn for them. You have to get the engineering done. You have to get Title 24.
Right, you have to have the sewer.
You have to add solar, most likely. I have to find out if it qualifies for pre-manufactured. If it qualifies for pre-manufactured, you get an exemption under the solar requirements in California for a new build, and put it up back there. So I'm going to look into that for my backyard ADU, and I'll update it.
And what would you say the timeline is to, for that to recoup your expenses based on the calculations?
Sure. So I think I'm going to recoup all my expenses within 10 years on the Almond Avenue property. And I'm going to put all the money towards the loan and pay it off because I want to have that just generating a lot of cash for me every month. I estimate that by the time I pay off the mortgages, I'm going to be pulling in about $13,000 a month gross. You know what I mean? And after property taxes, I'll probably take home 11 of them. So insurance. But I think around $100,000 is a reasonable budget. But it depends on the layout. Some of these layouts, it's very easy. If you have a garage, if you have a good garage, a lot of areas you convert your garage to what they call a junior attached ADU, and that's your ADU, and that's not very expensive. I mean, you build up a nice floor. You maybe you have to insulate it. You've got to bring down the ceilings a bit.
You're talking about in the garage, right?
In the garage.
That's what Kenny did, right?
My garage has my sub panel in my garage, so electrical's super easy. My garage has a water heater, so plumbing's super easy. You know what I mean? It's got all the hookups. Like, it would not be too difficult to convert my garage into a little studio unit.
Right.
And people can do that. And I find that a lot of times. There's multiple ADUs on my street on Granada Drive where you look and they've turned the garage into a bedroom suite that they rent out. My friend Brad recently bought a home in Walnut Creek for $1.8 million. It had a tiny little, not even 300 square feet studio that was kind of semi-attached to the garage. I think it took some of the garage space. And then he's got another detached ADU, and together he brings in over $6,000 a month on those things. On those two.
Wow.
With the gas line for stove. And
everything, yeah. And so he's almost covering his entire mortgage payment on a $1.8 million home. So he's living for free in a luxury home in a luxury area. Yeah. That's my ultimate goal. Brad is one of my... Yes, I'll send this to Brad. You're real, Brett. Yeah,
right. Awesome.
We converted our garage not into a full-on studio, but we have carpet. It's Cliff's. It's my husband's apartment. We call it the apartment. It's right off of the kitchen. It's the garage, but that's his. That's
it's a cool
his
space.
The kids, they play video games,
cool.
and it's just it's really nice. Now we don't have it. We don't have the stove and the bathroom and shower and everything else like that. But it's interesting. It's a huge space when you think about a 2-car garage in terms of.
Well, that's important. I mean, I want to turn my garage into that, so I want to have your husband over to my house and help me design.
Totally, but if we upgrade it, I might kick him out of his apartment and then rent that. It's a great option.
Yeah,
cool.
And you're doing this. You met with Amy and Lisa and discussed this type of.
Yeah, we're
doing something like this going forward with clients.
We're going to do a webinar, and we're going to invite people. We're going to advertise it. I did this with the team in Oakland too, and we call it house hacking. And there's other ways to go about this. You can use an FHA loan to buy a duplex with 3.5% down. Really minimal. A lot of people have that money sitting in their retirement account. They don't even know they can access it for a first-time home purchase, which is amazing. You can buy a 3 to 4 unit property with 10% down in some situations. So there's a lot of scenarios where we can get you in as a first-time home buyer into a scenario where you're generating rental income on a home that you live in and offsetting your mortgage payment by a significant amount every month. In fact, I have a home coming up for sale in Oakland soon. I'm hoping to get between $900 million for it. I think that's where it'll land. But the ADU on Airbnb, because I ran Airbnb comps on this, will generate $3,300 a month. If you buy that home for what I'll be selling it for, your payment on that home will be less than what it would cost to rent a one-bedroom apartment in this area, and you'll be in a full 2-bedroom, 2-bath, newly renovated, beautiful craftsman home. Yeah. It's a nice area of Oakland.
And one thing that you have to take into consideration, there's some cities that do not allow short-term rentals. So you got to be aware of that. I have hopefully a duplex coming up in the next few months in Sonoma, and the city of Sonoma does not allow short-term.
It's unfortunate.
So the city. So that's interesting. So are the cities now kind of?
Oakland has some really loose short-term rental guidelines. I think they don't allow for less than a 4-day stay or something like that. And I've heard a lot of people say they don't even abide by it. It depends on enforcement. Like some places, if the enforcement's not strong, Airbnb will let you list this unit, right? But if the city comes and notifies Airbnb that your unit is in violation of their rules, Airbnb can ban you from the platform, right? And you can get in a lot of trouble. But some of these places I've heard, I've heard in Oakland like that they just don't enforce and regulate this kind of stuff. So people are doing great things on Airbnb.
Sure.
But Sonoma, it's interesting. You brought this up the other day, and I was thinking I didn't realize the city had additional rules because I've done a lot of research on Sonoma County rules.
Mm-hmm.
And you told me, and I read about it afterwards.
Yeah.
Sonoma City, like in 2016, like started banning short-term rentals. I hate it. I think it's unconstitutional. I think they need to go like sue these, and take it and put it all the way up to appeals, get the Supreme Court say no, you can't tell people what they can and can't do with their own, because it's like
I kind of agree with that.
I think it's an encroachment on just personal freedoms and.
But with them being such a tourist destination, you'd be surprised that they do that.
Yeah,
they want a bigger piece of the pie.
Right.
Yeah, and like who's to gain from this? People with transit authority permits, like motels and hotels, and they have big money, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you look at South Lake Tahoe, there was this huge push saying that local residents didn't want Airbnbs, which is a total bullshit lie. They did want Airbnbs because a lot of the local residents generate money from the service industry.
Absolutely.
They profit from this,
Absolutely.
right? In their Airbnbs, and a lot of the homes up there are owned by non-local people. It was really the big money from the casinos and like Harris and all these other places that were kind of pushing this false narrative and putting flyers around town and showing up at council meetings saying, we don't want this, etc. And they pushed to have this really restrictive short-term rental board overseeing Airbnb permits, and then it came out that all the money behind it was from big casinos, and now
that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's all messed up. So they can come in here, big mafia money, because that's who built Vegas, and I'm sure some of that came into South Lake Tahoe. We can come in and build a 400-unit hotel with a casino, and make you lose all your money, gamble it away, and chain smoke cigarettes while you're doing it. But you and me can't go up there and buy a nice little condo or a house on the water and rent it out to people who want to go out and stay for the weekend.
Right.
Why?
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm glad we're talking about this because I'm actually quite interested. You have refineries, you have Kaiser, you have really large industries for traveling folks.
Yeah.
And
they need places to stay. So I wonder why Sonoma? Like, what's up in Sonoma that they did that? Is that casino up there?
It could be that. That's very likely. It could be that maybe the city wants residents, right? If all the residents leave, you lose a sense of, I don't want to say maybe culture or history and having families that have stayed in the area, but it's a community. You lose a sense of community. There's an idea that if it's renters, they don't keep up the property as well as people who live and own in a home. So there could be various factors, but it's a wonderful duplex. Hopefully, we'll be on the market maybe in spring. So if anybody's interested in the duplex in Sonoma, shout out, Linda.
But all these things are
Linda.
distractions from the real argument, the whole renter thing. Short-term renters take usually really good care of their homes because
Exactly.
on Airbnb, the identity has to be verified, and you can choose who rents from you because it's based on reviews. So if somebody wants to rent from me, I can say no, I don't want to rent from you because you have bad reviews, you have no reviews. You know what I mean? But I've got a guy, Joseph, staying with me in November. He's got 5 5-star reviews. His identity is verified, and he lives 4 hours away.
So Airbnb and VVRO and all that stuff, or VRBO, they rate the client too, or the tenant as well. You rate each other, and then your ratings become live after you each finalize. You finish your review, so it's all independent. So people know, if you're
I have 4.92 stars, and I'm a super host because I treat my people well, right? Yeah. And the people that treat me well, I leave them 5-star reviews every time. Communicate well, clean.
Yeah. It's like an Uber for homes.
Exactly. So the idea that people are going to come in and make a ruckus and do this whole thing, it's I think it's fear mongering, honestly. There's something that happened in Orinda where somebody got shot.
Right.
Regulate it. Say don't rent to people that don't have good reviews. I mean, people that have good reviews in Airbnb, they want to protect their reputation.
Right.
They do.
Yeah.
I've had good experiences. I've had very rare instances where I had people that didn't really respect the house. And they weren't throwing parties, they just weren't super clean, and they broke some furniture and stuff like that. I got through it and fixed it. But
did they have good reviews though when you rented it?
No, because at the time, and I actually have to still change the setting, I allow for auto book, so people can instantly book, so I don't need to verify them. And I think I'm going to change that because I've had 2 experiences where people auto booked with no reviews. They didn't turn out to be good tenants.
Have you
been there for 2 days, but.
Rob, have you ever had experience with renting long-term investment properties?
Yeah, so I got the house I bought on Ahmed Avenue in Concord near the John Muir Hospital. I rented out the main home, which is a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom, long-term. And what I did is, because during COVID there was a moratorium on evictions, people could stop paying rent, you couldn't do anything about it. So it was a very scary time to go and look for a long-term renter, right? And that price point attracts a lot of people that don't make a lot of money. So you got to be especially careful when you're renting out people because their income may be more vulnerable. They may not care as much about, things like their debt. Because the other thing you have to look at is when you're renting people, a lot of times people are renting because they can't buy. So does that mean they don't have good credit, right? So I would require a full background check, credit report, 3 references, and income documents. Because I'm a lender, I can review their debt-to-income ratio. I can see I want to see that they had reserves, sufficient income, etc., right? And I had tons and tons of applicants, right? And I wouldn't even show the property unless they applied. And so when it came down to it, I had some people that they wanted to move into it. I had one couple that lied to me about the situation. They had their mom co-sign, but they said their mom was going to live in the property with them. I did some research based on the mom's application. She bought a home 6 months previously. It was beautiful, 10 minutes away. And I said, there's no reason you're going to move into this whole place.
Right.
And so I called them out. I said, your mom's not going to live here, is she? No. I said, well, here's the deal. I'm not going to rent to you because you lied to me. But I'll tell you what, if you hadn't lied to me and told me that she was just guaranteeing your rent payments, I probably would have rented you. And so going forward, you should do that. And I said, on a California lease agreement, there's an area where a guarantor signs a lease agreement and you can go after them for lease payments.
Right.
So I said, just tell people the truth and you'll probably get in, right? People lied to me about animals. One guy that was a divorcee and he needed a place to live when he was in town with his kids, but then so he had 2 housing payments, which was a red flag if he didn't make enough money to have 2 housing payments, right? And then he didn't want to pay my deposit. And my deposit was first and last month's rent, plus 2 months security deposit, plus a pet deposit if you had pets. I love pets, but I required a pet deposit. And so the entire first payment was going to be over $8,000 for anybody that moved in. And then prorated based on the day you moved in for the rest of the month. So and then I put a clause in the lease agreement that said if you for any reason stop paying and refuse to move out and do this because of COVID related laws that allow you to do it, then you immediately forfeit your entire deposit, and I can go after you for damages and lost rents. So they had a huge financial incentive not to stop paying rent, right? Because we never knew when the moratorium was going to end, but an $8,500 deposit, on a house you're paying $26 a month on, that lasts for over a quarter of the year. So you can go, okay, I've lost, so what I mean? So I tried to make it difficult for them. So I had guys going, can you lower your deposit? I only want to pay a 1 month deposit. Nope.
Bet you do.
Please?
Yeah,
Absolutely not. I will not lower my deposit. I said no. No. It took me 4 months to get that thing rented out. But I rented it out to a really sweet gal. Her daughter contacted me. Her mom was moving back here from Nevada. And she said she wanted to know if I had experience as a landlord. She interviewed me. I said, yeah, I do. I have an in-law unit I rented out, etc. Do you live nearby? Yes, I do. What happens if there's a problem? I'm available. She can call you? Yes, she can. And you'll come over and fix the problem? I said, yes. Or I'll call somebody to come fix it and I have local oriented to come do. So she said, okay. Anyways, so she pays the full deposit. I verified her assets. She had 6 figures in the bank. She had a good business. She made money, etc. She signed a guarantor on the lease because mom didn't have a job, but also mom had a lot of money in the bank. And mom was really sweet. So she gets in there and she's been amazing. And she's called me half a dozen times and I've gone over and fixed things. And every time I come over, she goes, you're the best. You're just the best landlord. I just love having you around. And she's super sweet. She's great. Yeah. Pays on time every single month. But you know what? I look at that I fought hard and I waited long to get her.
Right.
I feel like she's a prize. You know what I mean? And she values me in a similar way, which is great. But that's my experience with long-term rentals. And I think in an environment like this, you have to be really picky with who you rent to.
You do.
And here's the deal. If you hire a property management company, to rent out a long-term rental in this market, I would say absolutely don't do it for this one reason. They have to follow fair house. They have stricter laws. They have to follow fair housing, etc. So basically, the first qualified applicant that rents that fills that application, they have to rent to. So they might not have found out that couple that had the mom that was lying. I did that because I did my own research as a lender. I pulled property profile reports. I saw that she bought a house. Showed that she refinanced. Showed that she, you know what I mean? They would have rented out to probably somebody who might have put me in a position where they would have stopped paying rent. You know what I mean? Whereas I can size them up and go, I'm comfortable with you, or I'm not comfortable with you because I don't think you're telling me the truth, whatever it is. And that's the thing you got to be leery of. So anyways, I'll digress, but that's my experience with long-term rentals.
So, and how does your experience with long-term compare to the Airbnb?
Oh, I love the Airbnb.
Satisfaction?
Airbnb just generates more money. If I were to do it again, I think when Barbara moves out, that's her name's Barbara, she moves out, which I'm going to let her renew, and I'm not going to raise her rents this year. She's just a joy to have in there. But when she moves out, I'm probably going to furnish that house in Airbnb because I think that it'll generate a lot more money on Airbnb. I had people offering to rent it from me long term so they could Airbnb it. So they thought there was enough money on it that they would make the margins, and that's the thing people do. But it's right next to the hospital. It's in a great area of Concord. It's a 5-minute walk to downtown Salvio. So, to the St. Louis Plaza.
Yeah.
I prefer Airbnb.
Okay.
Sam, how are we doing on time? Yeah, good. Awesome. Wow, this is great information today. Any other questions that you guys have for this? This is such a...
No, I find this really valuable.
It's very valuable, especially because you have that listing coming up.
I do, but it's also, people are looking for duplexes or, something to rent out. And just because it's not there, just because it doesn't exist, doesn't mean it can't exist.
Right.
So knowing that a lot of counties, a lot of counties, cities are allowing for ADUs. They want more housing. And so they're much more lenient than what they used to be about additions and ADUs. So if you get a single family home with a decent lot, it can always be added. So it's something that buyers want to kind of think about when they're looking.
So let's talk about options for a minute. If you could go the route and, like Rob did, look for a home with an ADU already established, that's going to cut you the cost of having to build it. But you were talking about you were going to do $70,000 on a property is what you were anticipating. Was that finished?
That's finished, and that's because this property had some development.
I'm sorry, let me just get in here. That is tremendous because if you think about it, if you're looking at duplexes, triplexes, these things could easily do $250 a unit,
right.
Value,
right.
$250,000 per unit.
Oh, yeah.
Right, totally.
Easy.
Right.
So getting it at $70,000 is huge, but that is within the original floor plan. The original footprint, right? So you don't have to do the foundation.
No.
Mm-hmm. You don't have to do some of the other, but digging out is huge.
Yeah.
Digging out the lower level.
So basically, your best value is not necessarily duplexes and triplexes at this point. It's homes that you
honestly
can add ADUs and things like that. And
every home that I look at, and I'm looking right now in the Saranac area of Walnut Creek because I grew up there. I really want to buy there, and I'm looking at all the houses that come on there. It's just looking for a configuration where you can easily add that. This one can be easily added because the previous owner was a contractor and he dug out the basement with 7-foot ceilings. I have to dig down so once you got a floor, it's not 12 to 7-8 feet, but he was going to build like a shop, like a wood shop.
Yeah.
And I saw it, I was like, great, that's my ADU.
There's homes here on these two streets that have done the same thing.
Yeah.
But nobody
There's one home here that I know of that has more space downstairs in the former basement than there is upstairs.
Really?
2-bedroom upstairs, 3 bedrooms downstairs.
And the thing is, nobody looks at this. Like that home sat on the
exactly.
market for 100 days.
What if there was a property that was a large home that was a little rundown, needed some love? What if it was a 1,900, 2,000 square foot property that you could put up a wall, had a separate entrance, had water accessible right there? You can create a second unit within that.
That's what Amy always told me. Be on the lookout for the potential.
Right.
And,
super smart.
And what if you are in not necessarily a city, but in county areas where they're not going to give you as much grief?
Super smart.
Right. Yeah.
And unincorporated areas.
So the reason this is so easy is because California introduced an ADU law some years ago. I think it was around 2017, 2015. And then in 2018, they amended the ADU law to say that cities cannot regulate certain things. So they can't regulate more than 4-foot setbacks, which means you can build a detached up to 4 feet away from your property line. They can't require you to have a separate sewer lateral or utility hookup or meter, meaning you can just connect off the existing water, sewer, and
well, that's huge. That saves a lot of money. Yeah.
Huge. They can't require covered parking. So cities didn't used to want this because they didn't want spaces to get crowded. So they would say, oh, you have to have covered parking. Oh, you have to have a separate sewer lateral. Why? For one toilet, I've got to have a whole other sewer lateral? None of it made sense. And now the state of California said, no, we're in a housing shortage crisis. Cities can't regulate. And you'll call cities. I called Concord.
Yes, and they still do.
And they were like, no, this. And I said, I don't think you're right. Have you read the new ADU amendment? And no, I've looked at it a little bit. I said, okay. So I called my architect, Domum, architects in Sacramento, and they said, no, we're very familiar with educating cities on this. And they submit the plans, and they call the city, and they go, hey, we're submitting this, and this works for this, and this reason. If you have a problem with that, let us know. But this law is why it works, and you cannot enforce anything above and beyond that.
Right.
And they pushed it through. And the city of Concord did not want me to get permitted for what I wanted to do, and they were forced to do it because my architectural firm showed them that it was the law.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Normally somebody
All
would just
depends on who you work
Right,
with,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right. God, that's crazy.
And they wanted to charge me like $25,000 in fees.
Permits, yes.
And my contractor came back and said, no, this has been overestimated. The cost to build all this is like about $250,000 in total. Like they were thinking it was like $500,000. So my fees got dropped to like $9,000.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And they were talking about permit fees. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and part of the permit fees are like the cost to build, you know.
Yeah, they are interesting.
Yeah. That is so cool.
So there's opportunities out there. There's a lot of
There is.
opportunities to be
Yeah. I mean, and I love the idea of, buying properties that have potential to add ADUs and in-law units and things like that. I mean, basements and above the garage. These are.
So let me tell you about one real quick that I really wanted to buy, but I just wasn't in a place cash-wise to do it. My money's all tied up in this flip in Oakland. It's on 2749 Kinney Drive in Walnut Creek. It's in the Saranac area of Walnut Creek. A beautiful home, super dated, super old. Some of it's light and bright, got some little updates here and there.
I love super dated.
Yeah.
I do too. I love it.
That's right.
My clients get so excited about turnkey, and I'm like, we can do this
Tile in the
in
bathroom.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
In 2 weeks, we can
Totally.
Before you ever
create
move
this
in.
space.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it had an ADU in the basement. It's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath up top with a beautiful kitchen, beautiful ADU in the basement. And then you go to the back, there was this long lot, this long rectangle lot, and halfway through the backyard, it had a fence dividing the backyard with a little gate. Well, the bells go off.
Yes.
Detached ADU, private walkway. But I already have the 2 units, so immediately I did rental comps and to generate like $4,000 a month on that basement ADU. $4,000 a month.
Just on the basement.
Just on the basement.
Wow.
Live upstairs, build the detached, and then be sitting pretty. But like I just didn't have the money to put it all together. But that's what
And people don't know about this stuff.
No, and they don't think about
They
it.
don't think about it.
It's out on the market.
Makes sense,
It
but-
went past the offer
Crazy.
date and no offers came in. It just went pending after 33
And
days.
you're like, what are you people doing?
No, seriously,
Yeah.
it's Saranac. It's Walnut Creek, but it's Lafayette schools.
Right.
Yeah.
People kill to get in that area.
Wow.
And they could do it for free if they knew how to do it right, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
That is it right there. They could do it for free if they knew how to do it right.
yeah, totally.
You need one of our agents to get you in the right, the right space. That's awesome. Wow. Well, I had a great
Yeah, this
conversation.
was
This
so
was super fun.
informative.
Yeah.
And poor Jamie missed it.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
We
Yeah,
missed
we
one
missed
thing.
her.
So we're missing poor Jamie because she's in Vegas.
Poor girl.
Yeah, poor Jamie. She's having a great time in Vegas. So, anyway, I think it's about time to wrap up. Gosh, I thank you, Rob, our new agents, Lisa and Amy, and Katrina, of course. Thank you guys so much for being a part of this. We will be doing this next season, and looking forward to some really cool topics, really cool places to
Really
do
good
our
wine.
really good wine. So.
Are these like seasons like fall, summer, winter? Are they fiscal? Are they calendar? What's next season?
You know what? I don't. I mean, we did 10 episodes this season, right? It was 10 episodes for this year, and kind of our we sort of learned how to do the podcast thing, and now I think we're pretty good at it. I mean,
Are we gonna have a holiday podcast where we get drunk and we're drinking out?
that'll be a mini episode. Yeah, I'm down with that.
After hours.
After hours, yeah, Maddox After Hours. We can
Yeah.
talk about the Berkeley Marina stories.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so anyway, no, I'm looking forward to it. So thank you everybody for being here, and obviously thank you Sam, Joe, thank you for everything. So I had a really good time doing this podcast. Thank you Sam for introducing us to this whole experience.
Opportunity,
He's
yeah.
our opportunity. Yeah, he's our producer, and he's great. So anyway, all right.
All right, everybody. Happy New Year. Holidays.
Yeah.
Are we doing that?
All right.
Thank you for listening to the Maddox Podcast. Thank you to our producer, Sam Lubman of Painless Podcast, for helping make this podcast possible. We started this podcast so we could share our real estate insights, as well as provide our listeners with a chance to get to know the Maddox team. Our goal is to make our clients' real estate sale or purchase as simple as possible, allowing them to sit back while we handle the hard work. To learn more about what we do or to look up resources about the Bay Area communities, visit our website at maddoxrealestate.com or give us a call at 510-993-0688.